Hey everybody, it's Warboss Fitz back again. This week, unfortunately, I do not have a campaign game for you because one of my War Masters, the one on the Havoc side, he's been real busy and has not been able to get back to me in time for this week's episode. So what that means for you is you get some more time to send in your battle reports on the channel. So in the spirit of the campaign, we're going to paint some Dwarves in 10mm today. And this is what we're going to do. I have one regiment of rifles, one regiment of troops, a group of gyrocopters, a group of gyro bombers, and then the next step up, which is going to be the ironclad out of the Sky City Dwarves. I'm going to have those in the army as well, because these guys are all going to be pretty much airborne based. And then for the next step up from there, I'm currently working on some things. Like this here was a game piece I found. It looks pretty cool. It looks like it could work. I'm still trying to search my way through some files to find some bigger stuff for the army. But let's go ahead and get cracking on this. And I've had people ask me how do I do my dry brushing, and ta-da! We're going to use some apple barrel white. So we're going to get our palette, we're going to get our huge brush ready, get our paper towel ready to do the dry brushing. Yep. Then we do some dabbing. And we are ready to go. And on these 10mm models, it's pretty much going to be like 2 passes. Alright, more than 2 passes, but you get the idea. Here is our King Dwarf, or the leader of this expedition. Alright, so now everything is dry brushed, and we're actually going to zoom in as we start going here because these guys are tiny. Alright, so that is what a squad looks like dry brushed. Ooh, as you can see, again, little presents from the cats. And pull them hairs out of there. So now what we're going to do is this army is going to be kind of blue flavored, kind of like the Dwarfs were I did in 32mm. So we're going to start off with our biggest color first, which is going to be the blue, and in this case High Lord Blue. So we're going to put a few little drops in here, boop 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 boop, and probably more than we actually need. You can see that's kind of viscous there, so we are going to add just a touch of paint water, and then for this I am going to use a tiny little brush. So I'm going to try to keep the focus on the models, but then the camera's kind of sitting over my head, so no promises. Let's go ahead and start on the backs. Okay, so that's what the unit looks like with its blue on it. There's an awful lot of chainmail on this unit, so now we just got to do that 5 more times. Alright, so all the warriors have been blued. Now it's time to do the riflemen. And there's our rifle leader here with his banner in the back. He's going to get blued as well. Now the riflemen look like they've got on some overcoats, so we're not going to blue them. They are going to be wearing some leather overcoats, so we can skip this step. We did the banner. We can come back later with a different color. Let's go ahead and do a gyrocopter. You can see all the details here on the sides, so we're just pretty much going to do the sides of the chassis itself, and then we're going to pick out all those details later. Okay, there's one gyrocopter. I did the wings blue on this one, little wings. I'm going to change that up in the other ones. I'm going to do those in a canvas color. And as you can see, I keep getting little presents from the cats. Now let's go on to this big guy. Again, I think I'm going to do this back here canvas. So we are going to put enough blue on this where you can kind of tell who it's for. Okay, that's not too terrible. That's enough blue. And then the bombers. Again, we're going to do the chassis blue. And yeah, a whole lot of metalwork of this too. Okay, so everything's been blued that needs to be blued. Next, we're going to go back in and do the riflemen and their coats, and what we're going to use is satchel brown. Alright, now that everything's been blued and browned, we are going to go ahead and move on to peachy flesh. We're going to touch some faces and some hands. Okay, once again, tiny brush. Now it's time to do some beards. We are going to do a combination of contrast gore grunt to fur, a little bit of pallid bone for the blondes, and we're going to do a watered down grim black for some black beards. Now we're going to do the last of the beards in pallid bone along with the canvas on these guys. So that's how it looks so far. Now it's time for what everyone's been waiting for. We're use some polished silver. Okay, for the extra heads, over here in the rifles, we're going to use a little desolate brown on the leather caps. Then we're going to do some glittering loot on the golds. Now it's time to go back and do some of the details on the side here. Now the last thing we're going to do color-wise is the ground. And because of the washes we're going to use later, we're going to use antique parchment. Now we just wait for those bases to dry, and then we do the final step. Alright, time for the next super secret thing we are going to use. Instead of doing our normal oil wash, we are going to be using Vallejo Game Wash Brown Dipping Formula. I've done this with the other 10mm models I have, and it's worked out pretty good. So just grab it by the corner, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Alright, there we go. And once again, we got to do the hardest part, which is let it sit till tomorrow. So now it is the next morning, and this is what we have. Let's see if I can get it to focus on these tiny things. These models are incredibly detailed, and just the contrast, speed paint, and washes will help you pick out every last little bit, or at least enough that matters at 10mm. So there's a tutorial for you guys on how to paint stuff in 10mm. Pretty much the same thing I do at 32 and 28mm. Dry brush, speed paint, washes. These guys took a little bit more time, about 3 hours total. So that'll do it for me down here in the basement. Regular campaign episodes will start back up 3 weeks from now, once I pin down my other War Master and force him to roll some dice. Until then, remember to tell all your friends about the different games OPR that you can even do it in 10mm. I hope to see you across the table one day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.